That same afternoon, Uncle Bai brought a middle-aged woman into the guest room, Fei Lan, the most trusted and skilled seamstress in the whole household. She had been making clothes for the Bai family for over 20 years, her work neat, durable, and finely detailed, and her reputation for honesty and quality was known far beyond their own estate. Fei Lan bowed respectfully, her eyes warm and professional. "Master Bai told me you have new styles in mind, miss. Let me first take your measurements, so I know how much fabric will be needed." Fengyu stood still while Fei Lan moved around her, measuring height, arm length, chest and waist width, and shoulder span with a soft linen tape, jotting every number down on a small piece of paper. Once done, she waited expectantly to hear what the young lady had planned. Fengyu then spread out the sheets of drawings she had prepared. Clear sketches of tops, trousers, dress, and t-shirts, each with notes on length, width, and stitching details. She explained which materials worked best: lightweight cotton for everyday wear, sturdy linen for work clothes, and softer, smoother silks for more formal pieces. She pointed out where to add reinforced seams, adjustable ties, and wider cuffs for comfort, and helped Fei Lan trace simpler, cleaner patterns that were easier to cut, and so than the complicated layered garments people usually wore. Back in her old world, Fengyu had studied fashion design and textile science for years, so she understood not just how clothes looked, but how they fit, moved, and lasted. Fei Lan leaned in closer and closer, her eyes widening more and more with every explanation. She ran her fingers lightly over the lines on the paper, turning her head this way and that. "This cut, it leaves more room around the hips and knees. And this seam, less fabric wasted, but stronger at the same time. I have never seen such ideas before. It looks simpler, yet it makes so much sense. How did you think of all this, miss?" Uncle Bai and Madame Zhang stood watching from the side, exchanging glances of pure delight. They had already believed the designs were promising, but seeing an experienced professional react with such surprise and admiration only confirmed how special these ideas really were. Once the discussion about fabrics and patterns settled, Fengyu spoke again, her tone turning more thoughtful and business-minded. "Fei Lan, Uncle Bai, Madame Zhang, we are only just starting out now, but once these clothes are made and people see how comfortable and practical they are, I can promise you, many others will try to copy them. It is only natural when something becomes popular." She paused, then continued, "To protect our work, we should have a mark or logo, a small, unique symbol sewn neatly inside the collar or stitched onto the hem. Anyone who sees it will know it is an original from our workshop, not an imitation. And even better, we should officially register both our business name and this symbol with the authorities, so it becomes our exclusive mark." Fei Lan tilted her head, confused. "Register a mark? I have never heard of such a thing. If others copy our style, there is little one can do, is there?" Fengyu smiled and explained the concept simply. "Think of it like a name. If only we have the right to use that name and symbol, then if someone copies our work and claims it as their own, we can prove it is ours. It is like putting a seal on what belongs to us. This practice isn't widely known or used yet here, but it will help us stand out and stop others from stealing our reputation." Uncle Bai stroked his beard, nodding slowly as he understood the logic. "It sounds wise, like having proof written in law. Even if the city has no formal rule for it yet, the law is meant to protect property and rights. I will go and speak directly with the magistrate of Lianxi City tomorrow. We will explain our idea, record our business name and chosen symbol in the official books, and have it sealed and witnessed. Once it is written there, no one can take it away, and we will have the full right to call these designs our own." Madame Zhang agreed firmly. "That way, even if others try to copy the look, they cannot use our name or our mark. Customers will learn to trust only what carries our seal, and our reputation will stay safe." Fei Lan's face lit up with understanding. "If it can be done, it would be wonderful. Then we can sew our mark into every piece we make, and everyone will know it is genuine. I will make sure it is stitched as neatly and beautifully as the clothes themselves." Fengyu beamed, feeling everything falling perfectly into place. With skilled hands, trusted partners, and plans to protect their work, her new business was already off to a very strong start. Once their discussion wrapped up, Fengyu took her leave with a cheerful nod, tucking a small plate of sweet osmanthus cakes into her hands before stepping out into the courtyard. She wandered slowly through the Bai estate, following the winding stone paths that led past blooming flower beds, shaded pavilions, and quiet ponds where goldfish glided just beneath the surface. Between bites of soft, honey-sweet cake, her mind drifted, turning over all the possibilities this new life held. So many things I can do here, she mused, her gaze wandering over the neatly trimmed trees and tiled rooftops. Not just the clothing business, there's food, crafts, ways to make life easier, things no one here has ever thought of. It feels like an open world waiting to be shaped. Then a small reminder popped into her thoughts, making her pause mid-step. Oh right, tomorrow I'm supposed to go visit my relatives. She smiled to herself, shaking her head slightly. Of course, there were no real relatives waiting for her. Wei Lan had been an orphan with no family left at all. But she couldn't tell the truth outright. That would raise too many questions, and lying about a random name was far too risky. She might accidentally claim kinship with someone of status or reputation, and that could bring trouble instead of trust. I'll just say the only remaining relative has already passed away, she decided. That sounds sad enough to sound true, and no one can demand proof of a death. But to make it feel more convincing, an idea formed, and she found it rather clever. Maybe I'll stop by the city cemetery first. Read the names carved on the old stones, learn a little of their stories from the caretaker or passersby, then choose someone whose family line seems small or forgotten. I can say I've come to pay respects, and that I'm their distant grandchild or niece who just arrived. It's plausible enough. People move away, lose contact, and return years later all the time. The plan settled neatly in her mind. It would give her a reasonable reason to be away for half the day, and when she returned, she could speak of it with a quiet, sorrowful air that no one would question. And after that, her expression brightened again. I'll take my time wandering the streets and head straight to the Shin family restaurant. I've got their jade token now, remember? Unlimited food, any dish, any time. I want to see what their idea of fine dining is, and maybe even learn a few things I can improve or bring to life myself. She bit into another cake, a soft, amused smile playing on her lips. In my old life, I never would have thought of doing this. Making up stories, creating identities. I was raised to be honest and proper, never needing to hide or pretend. But here, it feels like survival and wisdom wrapped into one. This world doesn't work the way I'm used to. To stay safe and get things done, you have to be a little sharper, a little more flexible, and think ahead before you speak. She laughed softly to herself, the sound light and happy as she continued her walk. Who would have guessed that the sheltered daughter from a modern city would turn into someone who plans visits to empty graves and lies with a straight face? But I suppose that's what growing into this life means. Becoming strong enough not just to live, but to thrive, no matter what rules the world plays by. With a full stomach and a mind full of tomorrow's plans, she turned back toward her room, already looking forward to what the day would bring. The next day, Fengyu woke while the sky was still soft with dawn light. She got ready quietly, slinging her sturdy crossbody bag over her shoulder. She placed 2 silver taels and her strings of copper coins into the secure inner pocket, then slipped the smooth jade token from the Shin restaurant beside them, wrapping it lightly in cloth so it wouldn't jingle. She had a clear plan. Buy some snacks for the road, pick up flowers both as an offering and a plausible token from her non-existent relative, and keep some money aside for useful materials or supplies she might spot along the way. She'd asked for her breakfast to be served separately, warm steamed buns and fragrant noodles in light broth, and ate quickly but neatly. The rest of the Bai household was still fast asleep, which suited her perfectly. She didn't want anyone offering to accompany her or send guards along. When a servant asked if she needed anything, she smiled and replied, "I'm just going to visit a distant relative. No escort is needed, and I'll return before evening. Please tell the family not to worry." With that, She stepped out into the fresh morning air. She looked up as the sky brightened from pale gray to soft gold, the first sunlight touching the rooftops and treetops. The walk was easy and enjoyable. Her body, though still small, had grown strong and energetic, so the distance felt like nothing at all. As she went, she stopped to ask passers-by for directions, first the names of nearby villages, then the location of the burial ground, since no one here used the word cemetery. Some looked surprised when she asked, but she explained gently, "I heard my distant grandmother passed away some time ago, and I've only just arrived in the city. I wish to visit her grave and pay my respects." She also asked where fresh flowers suitable for offerings could be bought. Hearing this, many onlookers nodded approvingly. So young and already so filial, they thought. Even for a distant ancestor, she travels here alone to honor them. Such sincere hearts are rare among the young these days. They pointed her the way with warm smiles and clear instructions. Fengyu thanked them politely and continued on. She stopped first at a flower stall, choosing a simple but fragrant bunch of white chrysanthemums and small wild lilies, customary for honoring the departed. Then she walked steadily for another half-hour until the path opened up into a quiet, sloping ground dotted with rows of stone markers and mounds of earth, the city's burial ground. She wandered slowly, reading the names carved into the headstones one by one, looking for a suitable resting place. Most were well-tended, with fresh offerings and trimmed grass, clearly still visited by living family. Then she spotted one set back a little from the main path, half hidden behind tall weeds. The grass grew thick and unkempt, and the stone itself was weathered and dusty. She hurried over, brushed away some of the dirt, and read the name, Old Madame Sue, born in the 18th year, passed in the 42nd year. No other names or details were carved beneath it. This one is perfect, she decided. She knelt carefully, laid her flowers in front of the stone, and folded her hands in respect. "Madame Sue," she whispered softly, "I am sorry I must use your name and resting place as my relative. I mean no disrespect, and I do it only to keep myself safe and avoid trouble for both of us. I am an orphan with no family left, and seeing your grave so overgrown makes me think your own kin may have moved far away or forgotten you. In return, I will clean this place properly today, and I promise to return now and then to bring more flowers, incense, and ghost money as thanks and compensation. May your spirit rest in peace." With that, she set to work. The thick weeds and tough grass gave way easily under her strong hands. She pulled them up by the roots, cleared away fallen leaves and small stones, and smoothed the earth around the base of the stone. What would have taken an ordinary person hours only took her a short while. Soon the grave stood neat and clear, the stone visible and the ground tidy, looking peaceful and cared for at last. She dusted off her hands and stood back to admire her work, when a voice called out from a little distance away. "Miss, you've done fine work there." Turning, she saw an older man with a bamboo broom over his shoulder and a cloth pouch at his waist, the caretaker who tended the graves of wealthier families nearby. He walked closer, looking surprised. "I've been watching from the hilltop. You came alone, and you cleared all that wild growth so quickly. Not many would bother with a grave that's been left for so long." Fengyu smiled softly. "She is my distant grandmother on my mother's side. We lost contact years ago, and only recently did I learn where she rests. It feels only right to come and look after her now." The caretaker nodded understandingly, then added, "That makes sense. You know, I do remember, about 2 years back, a young man came here. He said he was her grandson, too. He cleaned it, brought offerings, and stayed for a long while. But after that, he never returned. I thought perhaps he'd moved away to another city or met with misfortune. No one else has set foot here until today." Fengyu's heart gave a small, relieved jump. Even better, she thought. "I see. Maybe he went somewhere and couldn't return, but don't worry, uncle. Since I'm here, I would be visiting grandma sometimes." The caretaker's face lit up. "Good, good. It warms my heart to hear it. Old Madame Sue can rest easy knowing someone still remembers her. If you ever need to come and don't find the path clear, just look for me. I'll help you through." "Thank you, that is very kind of you," Fengyu replied gratefully. They chatted a little longer about the place and the customs of paying respects until the caretaker went back to his rounds. Fengyu stayed a few more moments, standing quietly before the grave, feeling satisfied. Not only did she now have a believable story to tell back home, but she had also given a forgotten soul a moment of peace. After washing her hands and dusting her clothes, she slings her bag back over her shoulder. She turned and walked out of the burial ground, her steps light and purposeful. Now it was time to explore the city, buy what she needed, and most of all, head straight for the famous Shin family restaurant. Fengyu picked up her pace as she stepped into the bustling market, where stalls lined both sides and vendors called out their wares. She wandered slowly until she found a shop selling hair ornaments, then selected two simple but elegant hairpins, one carved from polished sandalwood with delicate cloud patterns, another set with small, smooth white stones. They were modest but refined, perfect for her taste. After paying, she asked passers-by for directions to the Shin family restaurant. Many who had witnessed the strength competition just days before immediately recognized her face and eyes lit up. It's Miss Feng. This way, please, it's just down the main avenue, hard to miss. They guided her enthusiastically, clearly happy to be of help. When she arrived at the entrance, she paused to take it in. The building stood tall and well-proportioned, with gray tiled roofs, carved wooden beams, and wide windows framed with latticework. It was not overly decorated or gaudy, but every line and detail felt carefully considered, clean, dignified, and pleasing to the eye. The Shin family certainly has good taste, she thought approvingly. She stepped inside, and the air carried a faint, pleasant scent of herbs and steamed rice. The head attendant came forward to greet her, and she calmly took out the jade token from her bag, holding it out for him to see. The moment his eyes fell on the carved symbol, his expression turned respectful and attentive. "Miss Feng, welcome. Please follow me. We have prepared a private room for you upstairs," he said politely, leading the way. "The kitchen has already begun preparing dishes suitable for your taste." Fengyu smiled and nodded, following him. They moved this quickly, she mused silently. They must have looked into who I am already. But just how much do they know? She felt no fear, only curiosity. Once settled in the quiet, bright room with a low table and soft cushions, she asked, "Excuse me, could you show me where I may wash my hands before eating?" The attendant scratched his head, looking a little confused. "Wash before eating? It helps keep things clean and makes the meal more comfortable," she explained gently. Understanding dawned on him. "Of course, miss. Please come with me, we have water and soap in the kitchen area." They went down a short flight of stairs to the back, where large basins of warm water were set out. Fengyu washed her hands thoroughly with the herbal soap, dried them on a clean cloth, and returned upstairs feeling fresh. Soon the first dish arrived, a clear chicken broth with tender bamboo shoots and herbs. "This is light and easy on the stomach," the attendant said, placing it before her. "Please enjoy." Fengyu took a small sip first, then a bite of the meat. A gentle, refreshing flavor spread across her tongue, rich but not heavy, fragrant without being overwhelming. She ate with genuine warmth, feeling her spirits lift. One after another, more dishes followed. Steamed white fish topped with ginger and scallions, braised pork cooked until it melted in the mouth, crisp stir-fried greens in a light sauce, and finally a plate of soft, sweet pastries shaped like flowers. All were arranged beautifully, steam rising gently, and their aromas filled the room. "They look wonderful," she thought, picking up her chopsticks again. "Now let's see if the taste matches the appearance." She was halfway through her meal, savoring the fish, when a soft knock came at the door. The attendant opened it slightly and bowed. "Miss Feng, our masters have come to pay their respects." "There is no need to rise." Fengyu nodded, wiping her mouth and sitting up straight. Two figures stepped inside. The first was a young man maybe around the same age as Bai Jingwan, wearing fine but simple robes in deep blue. He carried himself with easy confidence and a kind, observant gaze. Behind him walked an older gentleman with a long gray beard and kind eyes, appearing more older than Uncle Bai. His bearing was dignified yet warm, like someone who had seen much of the world. They stood before her, calm and composed, and made their introductions clearly. "Greetings, Miss Foam," said the young man first, bowing politely. "I am Shin-Yi, the third eldest grandson of the Shin family. And this is my grandfather, Shin Yuan, the head of our household." The old man, Shin Yuan, nodded gently, his gaze warm but sharp, missing nothing. "We have come personally to welcome you and offer our sincere congratulations on your victory at the strength competition. It was a sight no one present will soon forget." Shin-Yi smiled and added, "I was there watching the whole time. When I saw how easily you handled that massive boulder, I knew the original prize was far too little. That is why I ordered the extra 25 silver taels added to your reward. You more than earned it. And please, feel free to pack any remaining dishes you like to take back with you. It would be our pleasure." Fengyu stood up gracefully, returned their bow, and smiled politely. "Thank you both so much for your kindness and generosity. I am truly honored by your hospitality. Please do not let us interrupt your meal," Shin Yuan said warmly. "We will take our leave now so you may enjoy your food in peace. If you need anything at all, just call for the attendant." With that, the two men excused themselves and closed the door softly behind them. Moments later, the attendant returned carrying a delicate porcelain tray with a small cup filled with a warm, amber-colored drink. "This is honey water infused with fresh mint, miss. It helps refresh the palate and aids digestion after eating. Please enjoy." Fengyu thanked him, took a sip, and felt a cool, sweet freshness spread through her mouth and throat, perfect after the rich flavors of the meal. Meanwhile, outside in the corridor, Shin-Yi and his grandfather walked into another quiet private room. Once the door was shut, Shin-Yi turned to the elder, his expression eager but thoughtful. "Grandfather, do you believe me now? Everything I told you is true." Shin Yuan sank onto a wooden chair, stroked his long gray beard, and nodded slowly, his eyes distant as if recalling old memories. "I do. When I looked at her just now, I saw it clearly. The shape of her face, the way she holds herself, and most of all, her eyes. They are exactly like those of my youngest son, Shinbo, who left home 15 years ago and never returned." He paused, then added, "And her full name, Shin Fengyu. She carries our family name. That is no small coincidence." Shin-Yi leaned forward, his voice serious as he recounted how it all began. "That afternoon, I only went to the square to pass the time and watch the fun. I never expected to see such a small girl step onto the stage among all those burly men. I stayed out of curiosity, and what I saw left me utterly stunned. No ordinary person could possess such strength. As I watched her more closely, I noticed the resemblance immediately. It brought back the memory of Uncle Shinbo, whom I only saw once when I was very young. At the competition, she only registered under the single name Foam, so I did not suspect anything at first. But as soon as the contest ended, I ordered our people to look into her background without drawing attention. What we found surprised us even more. She is the same girl who single-handedly defeated the entire Black Tiger bandit gang on the road, throwing a wild boar like a projectile. She is currently staying with Merchant Bai Huayuan and his family. And the most striking detail, her full name is indeed Shin Fengyu. She is 12 years old, originally from Qingyun City, and met Merchant Bai while traveling." Shin Yuan frowned slightly, his expression growing more careful. 12 years old, but she looks no older than 8 or 9. She is far too small and thin for her age. Whatever she has gone through, we do not know her circumstances yet. And we cannot be certain if this is truly a blood tie or just a shared family name. He turned to his grandson, his tone thoughtful. "You said she only wrote Feng when signing up and did not use her full family name. That is unusual. If she truly bears the Shin name, why hide it?" Shin-Yi nodded in agreement. "That is exactly why I hesitated and came to tell you. It could be that she has no knowledge of our family, or perhaps she has reasons of her own to keep her identity quiet. We have no proof yet, only similarities and a name. We must observe carefully and move slowly so as not to startle her or make a mistake." Shin Yuan looked outside the window, a faint, hopeful glint in his eyes. "Very well. Let her stay at ease for now. We will continue to watch quietly and wait for the right moment to learn the truth. If she really is of our blood, then after all these years, fate has finally brought a piece of our lost family back to us. Fengyu finished the last bite of the sweet flower-shaped pastry, wiping her mouth gently with a linen cloth. Just then, the attendant returned and bowed politely. "Miss, have you had your fill? Would you like any dishes packed to take with you?" She smiled warmly and nodded. "If it is not too much trouble, I would be grateful if you could wrap some of the roasted pork and seasoned chicken. I'd like to share them with the family I am staying with." "Of course, right away," the attendant replied. He quickly cleared away the empty bowls and plates, leaving only the cup of warm, mint-infused honey water on the table, then stepped out to arrange the packing. Left alone, Fengyu leaned back lazily against the soft cushions and turned her gaze toward the open lattice window. Outside, the afternoon sun filtered through the branches of old pagoda trees, casting dappled light across the quiet street below. Today really has turned out wonderfully, she thought with a contented sigh. Her mind drifted back to the two men who had just visited, especially the old master, Xin Yuan. That look in his eyes, it was not just curiosity or respect. It felt like he was searching for something or trying to recognize someone. She tapped her fingers lightly against the table. "They must have already found out my full name, Xin Fengyu, otherwise there would be no reason for the head of such a great family to come greet me personally." A small, amused smile tugged at her lips. "The truth is, I didn't pick this name to deceive anyone. It was my real name from my old world. My parents gave it to me. It just happens to match their family name here. What a strange coincidence." Curious, she tried once more to dig deeper into the fragmented memories of Wei Lan, the girl whose body she now inhabited. She searched back through the earliest moments she could grasp: a small, damp hut, the smell of herbs and sickness, a woman's weak hand holding hers, then silence. Wei Lan's mother died of illness when she was very young, she recalled. She was left alone and helpless on the streets until Director Liu found her and brought her to the orphanage. And it was Director Liu herself who gave her the name Wei Lan. There was no mention of a father, no family name, no connection to anyone else. She frowned slightly. So the original girl had no family name at all until then. But could it be possible that she was somehow related to the Xin family before her mother died? Maybe her father was from this clan and they lost track of each other over the years? There's no way to know for sure, not yet anyway. Shaking her head, she pushed the question aside for now. Whether it's fate or just a coincidence, I'll find out in time. No need to rush. She picked up the honey water and took a slow sip, letting the sweet, cool taste spread through her mouth. This meal was truly exceptional, she admitted. Even compared to that pavilion in Qingyun City or the careful cooking at the Bai estate, the flavors here are richer, more balanced, and prepared with far more skill. They know exactly how to bring out the best in every ingredient without making it too heavy or greasy. But as good as it was, a faint pang of longing stirred in her heart. Still, it can't compare to all the different foods I had back home. Spicy Sichuan hot pot, creamy French pastries, tangy Thai salads, fresh sushi, tender grilled steaks. So many flavors I took for granted then. Her eyes lit up with a new idea, and she sat up straight again. Wait a minute, many of the basic ingredients exist here already. Rice, flour, meat, vegetables, spices, sugar, even soy sauce and vinegar. If I can't find the exact same taste, I can try to recreate something close enough using what's available. A determined smile spread across her face. Tomorrow, I'll ask Uncle Bai to let me use the kitchen and buy whatever extra herbs or seasonings I need. I remember how to combine flavors, and Wei Lan's body still has the muscle memory for cooking and handling fire. It's worth a try. If I succeed, I can satisfy my own cravings and maybe even add new dishes to the business later on. Lost in her plans, she didn't notice the attendant returning with a well-wrapped bundle of food, neatly folded in oiled paper and tied with clean hemp string. "Miss, everything is ready," he said with a bow. "It will stay warm for a while, and the flavor will remain good even after you return." Fengyu took the package carefully. "Thank you very much." This has been a perfect visit. The food here really is great. With a light heart and a mind full of new ideas, she thanked him once more and made her way out of the restaurant, ready to head back to the Bai estate. Feng Yu was walking leisurely back through the busy streets, her bag swinging lightly at her side, when a voice calling her name cut through the noise of the market. Feng Yu. Wait, Feng Yu. She paused and turned quickly, looking toward the source of the shout. There, pushing through the crowd, was Bai Jingyuan, his face flushed and pale at the same time, chest heaving up and down as he gasped for air, sweat glistening on his forehead. He looked as if he had run all the way from one end of the city to the other without stopping. A soft, amused smile spread across her face, and she walked over to meet him, slowing her pace so he could catch his breath. Brother Jingyuan, what on earth happened to you? You look like you've been racing against the wind, she asked gently, reaching out to steady him a little. Jingyuan leaned over with his hands on his knees, trying to calm his ragged breathing. After a moment, he straightened up and wiped his sleeve across his brow. You walk far too fast. I spotted you from a distance and called out, but you didn't hear me, and I had to run just to keep up. I thought I would never catch up. Feng Yu laughed, a clear, light sound that made some passers-by glance over curiously. I'm just walking normally, you know. Why were you in such a hurry to chase after me anyway? Jingyuan's expression softened into one of relief mixed with concern. When we all woke up later and found you had already gone out alone, we asked the servants and learned you said you were visiting a relative. But as the morning turned into afternoon and you still hadn't returned, everyone began to worry. This city is big and there are all sorts of people about. Father and mother were anxious, so I decided to come look for you myself. Feng Yu's heart warmed at his words. She nodded gratefully. Thank you all so much for caring. But please don't worry. Nothing bad will happen to me. I can look after myself very well. She lifted the neatly wrapped bundle in her hand, shaking it slightly with a playful glint in her eyes. But look, guess what I have here? Jingyuan eyed the package, recognizing the familiar scent of roasted meat wafting through the paper. That smells like roasted pork and chicken. Is it meat? It is indeed meat. But not just any ordinary meat, she said mysteriously, smiling, but choosing not to reveal yet that it came from the famous Shin family restaurant. Let's just say it's something special I picked up along the way. Come on, we should hurry back before it cools down and loses its best taste. Jingyuan nodded, already feeling much calmer now that he had found her safe and sound. Right, the carriage is waiting just around the corner. He led her through the crowd to where their horse-drawn carriage stood parked by the roadside, the driver waiting patiently. Jingyuan helped her step up first, then climbed in after her, and the carriage set off at a steady pace back toward the Bai estate. As they rode, Feng Yu sat comfortably, holding the bundle carefully in her lap, while Jingyuan watched her with a mix of admiration and bemusement. No matter how much he thought he understood her, she always managed to surprise him. Going out alone, returning with fine food, and carrying herself with such confidence that it was hard to believe she was still just a 12-year-old girl. Whatever she had been doing and wherever she had been, one thing was clear: she was safe, she was happy, and she was far more capable than anyone gave her credit for. And that, he decided, was more than enough for now. The carriage rolled smoothly through the gates of the Bai estate and came to a stop before the main hall. No sooner had they stepped down than they saw Madame Zhang and Uncle Bai waiting near the entrance, their faces etched with clear concern. The moment their eyes landed on Feng Yu safe and sound, both let out long, relieved sighs, the tension leaving their shoulders all at once. They had woken up later that morning, only to learn from the servants that Feng Yu had already set off alone to visit her relatives. They knew logically that she was an independent young girl with her own affairs to attend to, yet they simply could not shake off their worry. To them, she's still small and fragile-looking, and the thought of her wandering such a large city without an escort had made them restless all afternoon. Uncle Bai stepped forward first, his voice gentle but earnest. You're back safe and sound, good. Did you manage to find your relatives and pay your respects properly? Fengyu lowered her head slightly, a soft, sad smile touching her lips. Actually, I didn't mention it before, but the relative I wished to visit has already passed away. I only wanted to go and leave some flowers at their resting place. It felt like such a small matter, and I didn't want to trouble anyone or make everyone go out of their way, so I decided to go alone. I hope you won't be upset with me. Hearing this, Uncle Bai's expression softened even more. He reached out and patted her lightly on the shoulder, warm and reassuring. Child, you don't need to carry such things alone. You are already part of this family. Whatever joys or sorrows you have, you can share them openly. There is no need to feel you are burdening us ever. Madame Zhang nodded in agreement, her eyes kind. That is right. We worry not because we doubt you, but because we care. Next time, just say the word, even if it is only to visit a grave. We will accompany you or send someone along, so you do not have to go by yourself. Fengyu felt a warmth spread through her chest and nodded gratefully. Then she lifted her hand, holding up the neatly wrapped bundle. Speaking of which, I did not return empty-handed. Look what I brought back. Almost as soon as she raised it, a rich, savory aroma drifted out that made mouths water instantly. Beside her, Jingyuan, who had been smelling it the whole ride back, could hardly keep his composure. His stomach gave a quiet rumble, and he chuckled embarrassedly. Since we have this wonderful treat, why don't we have our evening meal a little earlier today? No need to wait for the usual hour. Fengyu laughed softly and handed the bundle over to a waiting servant. It is indeed something special, but let us just enjoy it first. No need to ask where it came from just yet. She kept the secret of the Shin family restaurant to herself for the moment, wanting to let them savor the food and make them guess. Before they sat down, Fengyu gently reminded everyone, let's all wash our hands first, please, before we touch the food. This was not the first time she had said it. During her journey with Uncle Bai, she had already insisted that every man in the caravan follow this rule, explaining that they were constantly handling reins, weapons, and goods, gathering dust and dirt all day long. She had first brought it up after catching the giant boar and dealing with the bandits, pointing out that even if hands looked clean, they could carry things that made you unwell. And again, on her very first night at the Bai estate, she had asked the same thing before dinner. At first, everyone had looked confused and curious except for Uncle Bai. Wash hands before eating? We've never heard of such a custom, Jingyuan had remarked back then. Fengyu had explained simply but clearly. There are tiny, invisible things on our hands, like dust, dirt, and germs, that you can't see with your eyes. If you eat with those hands, they get into your body and can cause stomach aches, fevers, or long-term sickness. Washing them with clean water and soap washes those away, and it keeps us healthy. It's just a small habit, but it protects us. Over time, they had grown used to it, and now it felt natural to them. Once everyone returned to the table with fresh, clean hands, the dishes were laid out. The roasted pork and seasoned chicken Fengyu had brought glistened with sauce, giving off a rich, mouth-watering fragrance that filled the whole room. As soon as they took their first bites, expressions of surprise and delight spread across their faces. The meat was tender yet firm, the skin crisp, the flavor deep and perfectly balanced. Not too salty, not too oily, but bursting with taste that lingered pleasantly on the tongue. This is unlike anything we've ever had, Uncle Bai said, pausing with his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. The texture, the seasoning, it's simply extraordinary. Bai Ling's eyes went wide as she took another bite. Sister Fengyu, who cooked this? Even our best kitchen staff can't make meat taste this good. Jingyuan, who had been wondering all along, turned to Fengyu with a knowing look. Yes, I've been curious too. Where exactly did you get this? It's far too fine to be just something bought from an ordinary stall. Fengyu smiled, her eyes crinkling with amusement. After I visited my relative's resting place, I walked toward the city center and stopped by the Shin restaurant. This is what they prepared and gave to me to bring home. The whole table fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in soft gasps. The Shin restaurant? Bai Wei nearly dropped his chopsticks. I've only heard stories. They say even wealthy merchants hesitate to eat there because it's so expensive. And you brought back their food? Uncle Bai nodded slowly, understanding now. No wonder the taste is so refined. That establishment is famous for having the finest ingredients and most skilled chefs in the region. Hearing where it came from only made them reach for more. Madame Zhang, seeing everyone leaning forward eagerly, laughed and tapped the table lightly. Now slow down, all of you. Remember your manners. There's plenty to go around, no need to rush. Bai Wei chuckled, scratching his head in embarrassment. I can't help it, it's my first time tasting food from the Shin restaurant. I've always wanted to try it, and now here it is. I just got too excited. Bai Ling nodded vigorously, taking another small bite and savoring it. Sister Fengyu is truly incredible. First she wins the competition, then she visits the Shin family, and now she brings back such wonderful food. There seems to be nothing she can't do. Fengyu just smiled, listening to their praise, happy that her small treat had brought so much joy to the family. Once the last dish was cleared and warm tea was poured, Fengyu set down her cup and spoke with a bright, eager expression. Uncle Bai, Auntie Zhang, everyone, may I ask for your permission? Tomorrow at lunchtime, I'd like to use the kitchen to prepare a few dishes myself. It's my way of saying thank you for taking me in and treating me so kindly. I also want to try out some new recipes I've been thinking of, so you can all be the first to taste them. Madame Zhang smiled warmly and waved her hand gently. Oh, child, there's no need to be so formal or polite with us. You are part of this family now. You don't have to earn your place or thank us like guests. She paused, looking thoughtful, then nodded slowly. But if you truly wish to do it, I won't stop you. However, I have one condition. One of the older kitchen helpers or servants must stay there with you the whole time. Not to get in your way, but to keep an eye on the fire and help carry heavy things, just in case. Agreed. Of course, that is more than reasonable. Fengyu replied happily, bowing her head slightly. Thank you so much for trusting me. Bai Ling leaned forward curiously, her eyes sparkling. Sister Fengyu, where did you learn to cook? I've only ever seen the kitchen staff do it, and it looks so complicated. Fengyu laughed softly, choosing her words carefully. I learned mostly by watching the adults around me when I was little. After seeing them prepare meals day after day, they eventually let me try my hand at simple things, and I picked it up from there. Inwardly, though, she smiled at the memory. Back in my old world, my family was wealthy enough to have professional chefs for every meal. But my mother always insisted I spend time in the kitchen with her, saying it was a useful skill. I was so lazy then, I'd just stand there watching, barely lifting a finger, thinking I'd never need it anyway. If only I'd paid closer attention and practiced more back then. She shook off the thought, feeling amused and grateful. But fate works in strange ways. Now I'm in this body, and Wei Lan actually knew how to cook out of necessity. She had to prepare simple meals for herself and the younger children at the orphanage. So I have her basic skill to build on. And now I have a good reason to do my best. Not only can I make the flavors I miss so much, but I can also share them with everyone here and maybe even teach them new ways of cooking later on. She covered her mouth to hide a little chuckle, then turned back to the family with a bright smile. Suddenly, Bai Wei tilted his head and asked curiously, Father, if the food at the Shin restaurant is this amazing, why haven't we ever gone there before? Uncle Bai chuckled softly, a nostalgic look crossing his face. When I was about your age, I did go once with a friend. The meal was so delicious I still remember the taste even now. But when my father, your grandfather, found out how much silver I'd spent just on a single meal, I was terrified. I thought I'd be lectured for days, and I was half convinced he'd give me a good beating for wasting money. He shook his head with a smile. Your grandfather was quite careful with silver, some might even call him stingy. He always said, we have plenty of good food at home, why throw away money on fancy dishes? Even though we are merchants and earn well, he taught us to save for hard times, bad harvests, or unexpected disasters. He said that way we would never have to beg or borrow from others when trouble comes. The whole family nodded, understanding the old wisdom. As they spoke of him, They all felt a sudden wave of warmth and longing. They began recalling the stories grandfather used to tell, especially the tales of how mischievous and reckless Uncle Bai had been when he was young, getting into scrapes and sneaking off to explore the city. The room filled with soft laughter as memories were shared, the earlier topics fading into warm family chatter. Before long, the conversation wound down and everyone rose to retire for the night. Fengyu went back to her room, bathed in warm water, and changed into clean, soft sleeping robes. She sat by the window, combing and patting her hair dry. How convenient a hairdryer would be right now, she thought with a sigh. Hot air, fast, and done in minutes, but I can't even begin to make something like that here. I never studied how it works, no blueprints, no parts, no idea of the mechanics. And there isn't any electricity yet. She rested her chin in her hands, feeling a little frustrated. Honestly, there are so many things I want to bring over from my old life. Machines, tools, ways to make life easier. But what good is knowing they exist if I don't know how they're built? I don't have some magical system or guide popping up to teach me these complex things, nor do I get dreams that suddenly explain every detail. She shrugged it off, deciding not to dwell on what she couldn't do. At least I have what I can manage. I can design and make better-fitting clothes, starting tomorrow. I can cook, even if I have to improvise. I know a bunch of survival tricks and simple methods from watching tutorials online. And soap. This world already has basic soap, so I can try improving it, making different scents and better formulas. That's doable. Her mind drifted to other ideas. I could also write down stories I remember clearly or draw illustrations to go with them. People always enjoy new tales, and it's easy enough to share. But that's not my main goal right now. A small smile spread across her face as she thought of the next day. First, the new clothes will be ready for fitting. Then I'll get to test my cooking skills properly. One step at a time, no need to rush. With that peaceful plan in mind, she blew out the lamp, settled into the soft bed, and quickly drifted off to sleep, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. The next morning, just as the sun climbed high enough to fill the room with soft light, Fei Lan arrived carrying a neatly folded bundle wrapped in clean cotton cloth. She set it down carefully on the table, her eyes bright with pride. Miss Fengyu, here's the very first set of samples I've sewn, following your patterns exactly. I've checked every stitch and seam, they should fit just right. Fengyu's face lit up. She quickly took the clothes and went behind the folding screen to change. Moments later, she stepped out wearing a soft blue t-shirt with sleeves reaching down to her elbows, paired with a white skirt that had a long, graceful ruffle running down the front. The fabric was light and breathable, the cut simple but shaping her figure gently without being tight or restrictive. When she walked out into the courtyard where the whole family was waiting, their eyes widened in unison. By the heavens, Madame Zhang murmured, stepping forward to look closer. This style. It is so different from the long, layered robes we usually wear. It looks so fresh, neat, and lively, like a breath of spring wind. Uncle Bai nodded in agreement, a look of appreciation on his face. No heavy folds, no trailing hems to trip over. It looks practical yet elegant at the same time. Fengyu smiled, then gave a light twirl. The skirt flared out softly, the ruffle swaying beautifully. She slipped on a matching thin linen jacket, which hung loosely over her shoulders and fastened simply at the front. Feels like I'm walking on a runway, she thought with an inner chuckle, striking a few easy turns and poses to show how the fabric moved and how it looked from every angle, just like a professional model demonstrating the design. After showing off the first set, she went back behind the screen and changed again. This time she came out wearing straight-cut pants in a soft gray hue, paired with a green shirt with elbow-length sleeves, the same comfortable cut as before. The pants fit smoothly around the legs, not too tight, not too loose, leaving plenty of room to bend, walk, or climb. Look, she said, bending her knees, stepping high, and twisting her torso easily. See how freely I can move? No long fabric getting caught on things, no need to hold up the hem when you walk or work. And these pants. They are not just for men. Women can wear them too, especially when doing chores, traveling, or even riding a horse. They're far more convenient than skirts for many activities. Before anyone could reply, Bai Ling rushed forward, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She took Feng Yu's hands and turned her around gently to admire the outfit from every side. "Sister Feng Yu, you look wonderful. So neat and full of energy," she exclaimed. Then she spun around to face her father and mother, clasping her hands together eagerly. "Father, Mother, I want to wear these too. They look so comfortable, and I wouldn't have to worry about tripping or getting my clothes dirty when I run around." The garden. "Can Fei Lan make a set for me as well?" Uncle Bai and Madame Zhang exchanged a look, smiling at their daughter's enthusiasm. They could already see how practical and appealing these new designs were, no longer just strange ideas, but clothes that made sense for everyday life. Seeing how much everyone liked the new designs, Uncle Bai immediately turned to Fei Lan and gave clear instructions. "Fei Lan, take measurements for all of us, myself, Madam, the boys, and Ling as well. Make sets of these short-sleeved shirts, skirts, light jackets, and trousers. For the men, focus on the shirts and pants. They'll find them far more useful for work and travel." Fei Lan nodded happily, already reaching for her measuring tape and notebook. "Understood, Master Bai. I'll get the measurements right away and start cutting the fabric as soon as I have them." Just then, Feng Yu stepped forward, her eyes bright with a new idea. "Wait, I've been thinking of something else too. Later on, I'd like to add printed patterns onto the fabric, flowers, clouds, animals, or simple designs. It would make the clothes even more unique and stand out from anything else in the market." She paused, scratching her cheek thoughtfully. "But I haven't worked out the proper method yet, and I haven't found or listed all the materials and dyes I'll need. It's something I'll figure out step by step, so we can leave that for later." For now, she continued, "Let's focus on making the clothes well-fitted and sturdy. And don't forget, we'll sew our brand mark neatly inside the neckline, where it won't rub against the skin. That way, anyone who buys them will know right away they are genuine pieces from our workshop." Uncle Bai stroked his beard, looking pleased. "That sounds sensible. Start with the basics, build a good reputation first, then add new features as we go. The mark inside the collar is a fine idea. Simple, lasting, and easy to recognize." Madame Zhang smiled in agreement. Once people get used to how comfortable and well-made these clothes are, they'll soon look for that little mark to know which ones to buy. Fei Lan already had the symbol drawn on a scrap of cloth, ready to copy it with fine thread. "I've practiced stitching it already. It will be small but clear and won't damage the fabric at all." With everything decided, Fei Lan began moving from one person to the next, taking down every measurement carefully. Feng Yu stood by, checking the numbers to make sure they matched her design notes, already imagining how the first full batch would look once finished. Once everything was settled, Feng Yu excused herself with a bright smile. "I'll go start preparing lunch now, everyone. Please look forward to it." They nodded in good spirits, and she hurried off without changing out of her new clothes, staying in the comfortable green elbow-length shirt and fitted pants, which let her move freely around the kitchen. She carried the other samples and her change of clothes in one arm, and as soon as she reached her room, she put them away neatly before heading straight to the kitchen. The kitchen was warm and filled with the familiar scents of dried herbs and simmering broths. Feng Yu listed out what she needed clearly. "I'll need flour, fresh eggs, ripe tomatoes, garlic, yeast, and butter, plus cooking oil. Any neutral oil will do, since olive oil isn't available here." She mentally noted the substitution, figuring it would still work well enough. "Also, do you have ice stored away?" The kitchen staff nodded right away. "Yes, we keep blocks of ice in the cold storage cellar for preserving ingredients." Just then, the head chef, Uncle Da, walked in, wiping his hands on his apron. Seeing Feng Yu arranging ingredients, he smiled warmly. "Miss Feng Yu, I heard you wish to cook today. Do you need a hand with anything?" She turned to him, her expression eager. "I do, actually. I plan to make hand-pulled egg noodles and long, crusty bread. But looking at my small hands, I know I won't have the strength to knead and pull the dough properly myself." Would you be willing to help? I'll guide you through each step. Uncle De laughed heartily, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Of course I'll help. But only if you promise to give me a generous portion to taste as well. I'm curious to see what new dishes you have in mind. Deal. Fengyu grinned. And everyone working here gets to eat too. No one goes hungry while we cook. Before anything else, she clapped her hands gently. First rule, though, everyone who will be handling food must wash their hands thoroughly with soap and warm water. It keeps everything clean and safe to eat. The staff paused, then nodded, following her lead. Uncle De and the helpers lined up to wash their hands, and Fengyu did the same, scrubbing carefully before drying them on a clean cloth. Now let's begin. We'll make the bread first so it has time to rise, then the noodles while it bakes. While the kitchen hummed with activity and preparations were well underway, an unexpected announcement echoed through the courtyard. Guests had arrived. This was quite unusual. The Bai household rarely received visitors, and certainly none of such standing. There had been no time to tidy up formally or prepare a grand welcome, yet Uncle Bai and Madame Zhang hurried out to greet their guests with sincere courtesy. Standing at the entrance were none other than Shen Yuan, the revered patriarch of the Shen family, and his grandson, Shen Yi. We are truly honored you would grace our humble home, Uncle Bai said warmly as he ushered them inside, while servants brought fine porcelain cups and poured steaming tea. Shen Yuan bowed slightly in return. Please forgive our sudden arrival. We came without sending word beforehand, bringing only a few modest tokens as gifts. We hope you will accept them. He gestured to attendants setting down boxes of fine tea leaves, preserved fruits, and bolts of premium silk. You are always welcome here, surprises and all, Uncle Bai replied graciously. And your kindness is deeply appreciated. After a moment of polite exchange, Shen Yuan spoke gently. Truth be told, the main reason for our visit today is to see young Miss Fengyu. Madame Zhang smiled in understanding. She is here indeed, though right now she is quite busy in our kitchen. She insisted on preparing lunch herself today, testing out entirely new kinds of dishes she has imagined. Before long, a servant slipped quietly into the kitchen to deliver the news that Master Shen and Shen Yi were sitting in the main hall waiting for her. Fengyu only smiled, unbothered by the news, and turned straight to Chef De. Uncle De, we'll need to double the amount of noodles and bread dough. We have honored guests joining us today. The kitchen grew livelier by the minute. Soon, a rich, warm, mouth-watering aroma began drifting from the oven where the long loaves baked fragrant with yeast and butter, mingling with the fresh scent of simmered tomatoes and herbs and the noodles. Once those were set aside to finish cooking, Fengyu set about preparing something else entirely. She brewed a strong, clear tea, then asked for a large earthen jar, fresh milk, and coarse brown sugar. She melted the sugar slowly until it turned golden and caramel sweet, pouring in the tea and milk while stirring everything smoothly together. Then she had the blocks of ice from storage brought over, crushed, and added right in to chill it instantly. She took a small sip herself first, checking the sweetness and balance, then nodded happily. Perfect, just right. Uncle De leaned forward curiously. Is it safe? Shall I be the first to taste it, miss? Only after I have tried it myself, she answered playfully, pushing the jar toward him. Go ahead now, tell me what you think. He took a careful sip, then another longer draught, his eyes widening slowly. He stood there holding the cup, quite still and dazed. He had just tasted something from a dream, creamy, sweet, refreshing, and completely unlike any drink he had ever known before. This is wonderful, he murmured at last, shaking his head in disbelief. Cold, smooth, rich. How did you even think of such a thing? Once the milk tea was perfectly chilled and mixed, Fengyu had servants carry the large earthen jar and a tray of cups toward the main hall. She carefully poured each serving herself, using fine ceramic bowls and cups since clear glassware was still unknown here. I must look for craftsmen who can make glass someday, she noted silently. It would suit these cold drinks beautifully. She instructed them to leave the jar as well, so everyone could help themselves to as much as they liked, setting aside a generous portion for the kitchen staff first. Back at the hearth, steam rose in thick clouds. Water had reached a rolling boil. She lowered the fresh egg noodles gently in, while directing helpers to retrieve the long golden loaves from the oven and set them on wooden racks to cool just enough. Let the bread settle a short while, she explained. Then we'll slice it and brush it with melted butter and minced garlic before baking once more until crisp and fragrant. Uncle De leaned against a post, sipping his cup slowly, watching her move with such ease and certainty. The rest of the kitchen crew had also gotten their share. One sip, and they all fell quiet, eyes bright with surprise, then delight. Creamy, sweet, cold, and rich, nothing like it had ever passed their lips before. How could such a refreshing drink exist, and no one here ever heard of it? One helper whispered. She truly knows things no one else does. Miss Feng Yu is simply extraordinary. Between sips, they began talking about the outfit she still wore. The new-style green shirt and loose-fitting trousers. See how she works, another remarked. No catching on handles, no fabric dragging in dust, no need to constantly tug or tuck or hold things up. It stays neat and comfortable no matter how you bend, stretch, or knead. Who knew clothes could be made this well suited for actual work? Uncle De nodded in full agreement, wiping a drop from his chin. Her food is just as clever as her clothing. Simple ideas, yet changed so much they become entirely new wonders. Mark my words, whatever she sets her hands to will turn out better than before. In the main hall, everyone sat sipping from their bowls, completely captivated by the cold, creamy sweetness of the milk tea. One bowl was quickly finished, and they poured another, savoring every mouthful. Bai Ling bounced on her cushion, eyes sparkling. It's so smooth and cool. Nothing like this exists anywhere. I want to run to the kitchen right now and ask Sister Feng Yu how she made it. She started to stand, but Madame Zhang gently held her arm back. Let her finish cooking first, Ling. We don't want to disturb her while she works. Master Xin and Xin Yi were equally impressed. They exchanged glances, both clearly astonished. In all our years, and with all the chefs we employ, we have never tasted anything this delightful, Xin Yuan said slowly. It is simple ingredients, yet combined in a way that feels entirely new. When the time is right, we must ask her for this recipe and reward her handsomely with gold for sharing it. But they agreed to wait, knowing she was still busy preparing the meal. Before long, servants carried the fragrant dishes into the dining room, steaming bowls of noodles coated in rich tomato garlic sauce, and slices of long, crusty bread toasted golden with melted butter and garlic. The whole room filled with an irresistible aroma. Uncle Bai stood up, looking a little shy but sincere as he turned to their guests. Master Xin, young Master Xin. Before we eat, there is one small custom Feng Yu has taught us. We wash our hands first, to keep sickness away and enjoy the food fully. I hope you won't mind this unusual request. Not at all, Xin Yi replied with a smile. If it is her wisdom, we will follow it gladly. Once everyone had washed and returned to their seats, Feng Yu walked in, wiping her hands on a clean cloth. She beamed at the sight of everyone gathered and gestured warmly to the table. Please, everyone. Help yourselves and enjoy. I made extra portions, so don't hold back. This food is light and easy to digest, so you can have as much as you like without feeling too full. The rich, savory aroma wrapping around the table was so irresistible that no one could hold back any longer. Almost instinctively, they all reached for the golden slices of garlic bread first. Jingyuan took a hearty bite, and a satisfying crunch echoed clearly, crisp on the outside, soft and fluffy within, with the rich, mellow taste of butter and fragrant garlic melting perfectly on his tongue. He didn't hesitate, taking another eager bite before lifting his chopsticks to try the noodles. Twirling a generous portion coated in glossy, sun-ripened tomato sauce, he took a mouthful, and his eyes widened instantly. The smooth, springy noodles paired perfectly with the bright, savory sauce, and he leaned forward, eating even faster, completely captivated. Seeing Jingyuan's reaction, the rest wasted no time. They lifted their chopsticks and bowls, diving into the feast, savoring every single flavor. The tangy sweetness of the tomatoes, the gentle warmth of garlic, the tender noodles, and the crisp, buttery bread. Each taste was unlike anything they had ever experienced before. Even the dignified and composed Master Shen set aside his usual manners, eating with genuine delight, his eyes lighting up with every bite. For a moment, the entire dining hall fell into a wonderful, comfortable silence. No one spoke, no one made a sound. It seemed as if everyone had momentarily forgotten how to breathe, completely lost in the joy of this incredible meal. Fengyu watched them with amusement, a soft, happy chuckle escaping her lips. She calmly picked up her own chopsticks, taking small, contented bites of her own food, feeling a quiet pride seeing her cooking bring such simple, pure happiness to everyone gathered around her. The only sounds filling the room were the soft clinking of bowls and chopsticks against porcelain, the rustle of movement, and quiet, contented sighs escaping everyone's lips, everyone except Fengyu, who sat serenely watching them enjoy the meal. One bowl turned into two, then even three. Everyone helped themselves again and again, completely lost in the delicious flavors, savoring every mouthful without hurry or restraint. The fragrant garlic bread vanished first, the empty basket sitting quietly on the table. Seeing this and knowing how much more they would want, Fengyu leaned over to the nearest servant and whispered softly, "Please bring out more garlic bread and noodles. And bring another large jar of the iced milk tea too. I made plenty extra, knowing everyone would enjoy it." She had prepared a huge batch beforehand, just for this moment, wanting no one to run short or feel unsatisfied. She didn't wish to interrupt the peaceful, happy atmosphere around the table, so she quietly arranged it herself. The servant nodded with a bright, knowing smile, slipping silently away to the kitchen, already certain that whatever Miss Fengyu had planned would be just as wonderful as what they had already tasted. The only sounds filling the room were the soft clinking of bowls and chopsticks against porcelain, the rustle of movement, and quiet, contented sighs escaping everyone's lips, everyone except Fengyu, who sat serenely watching them enjoy the meal. One bowl turned into two, then even three. Everyone helped themselves again and again, completely lost in the delicious flavors, savoring every mouthful without hurry or restraint. The fragrant garlic bread vanished first, the empty basket sitting quietly on the table. Seeing this and knowing how much more they would want, Fengyu leaned over to the nearest servant and whispered softly, "Please bring out more garlic bread and noodles. And bring another large jar of the iced milk tea too. I made plenty extra, knowing everyone would enjoy it." She had prepared a huge batch beforehand, just for this moment, wanting no one to run short or feel unsatisfied. She didn't wish to interrupt the peaceful, happy atmosphere around the table, so she quietly arranged it herself. The servant nodded with a bright, knowing smile, slipping silently away to the kitchen, already certain that whatever Miss Fengyu had planned would be just as wonderful as what they had already tasted. It felt as though time had stretched on endlessly before they finally paused, looking down to realize every bowl was empty and every last crumb gone. They glanced at one another. Robes askew, cheeks full, and eyes bright, then burst into warm, hearty laughter at their own lack of restraint. Now they sipped the creamy iced milk tea, finding it perfectly sweet and refreshing. Surprisingly, despite eating so much, they didn't feel heavy or uncomfortably stuffed at all. Bai Wei patted his stomach and sighed longingly. "I could still eat another whole bowl. Honestly, I want more." The others nodded with quiet sighs of their own. Truth be told, every single one of them craved another helping, but they forced themselves to hold back out of politeness. Shen Yuan chuckled warmly, smoothing his beard. "You must forgive us, Merchant Bai. We came as honored guests, yet we completely forgot our manners and ate as ravenously as hungry travelers. It has been such a long time since food brought us such simple joy." Uncle Bai waved his hands happily, beaming. "Not at all. It is the greatest honor that you enjoyed our meal. And we have Fengyu to thank entirely. This feast is all her doing. I've lost count of how many times we refilled our bowls, yet not a single bite felt anything less than wonderful." Bai Wei turned pleading eyes toward Fengyu. "Sister Fengyu, can we please have this again for dinner tonight?" Madame Zhang shook her head gently. Wei, that is far too much to ask. She has already worked so hard to prepare this wonderful meal. We cannot demand more from her. Fengyu laughed softly, shaking her head. Don't worry at all. Uncle Da and the kitchen staff have learned the steps now. They can easily make this again whenever you like. She paused, then added seriously, but we shouldn't eat it too often. Too much of anything isn't good for the body. We need balanced meals, different foods to give us strength, and plenty of exercise to keep fit and healthy. Uncle Bai tilted his head, curious. Balanced meals? Exercise? I have heard the words, but what exactly do they mean? Even Master Shin and Shin Yi leaned in, listening closely, approving of her wisdom. Fengyu explained simply. A balanced meal means eating a mix of grains, vegetables, and meat, not just one thing all the time. Exercise means moving your body actively, walking, stretching, working, or training your muscles, so your body stays strong and your energy flows well. Food fuels us, but movement keeps us healthy. Everyone nodded slowly, realizing how much sense it made. As they digested her words, their attention drifted to what she was wearing. The simple green shirt and comfortable pants fit perfectly, allowing her to move freely without any restriction. Fengyu, Shin-Yi asked curiously, what is this style of clothing you are wearing? It looks so different from our usual robes, yet far more practical. Fengyu smiled brightly, smoothing the fabric of her shirt. These are our brand new designs. Uncle Bai and I are partners. I create the patterns and styles, while he provides the materials, skilled craftsmen, and everything needed to make them real. The whole Bai family is getting sets made too. We're having them tailored right now. Shin-Yi's eyes lit up instantly. If they are as practical and comfortable as they look, then I would very much like a set as well. He glanced over at his grandfather, and suddenly they both paused, exchanging a quick look. We almost got distracted and forgot why we came here today. Shin Yuan leaned forward slightly, his expression warm but sincere. Actually, that brings us to the true purpose of our visit. We came to formally invite you and the entire Bai family to a small gathering at our residence soon. But now, after tasting this incredible food and seeing these wonderful clothes, we wish to propose something even more meaningful. We would like to work together with you. He paused briefly before continuing. Our family's business has always centered on food and hospitality. We would like to purchase the recipes for this milk tea and these marvelous new dishes from you. In return, we will offer you a generous amount of gold, as well as proper credit. And for these new clothes, we would love to order sets for our family and staff and perhaps even discuss becoming partners in selling them too. They are clearly far more comfortable and useful than anything available now. Uncle Bai looked from Master Shin to Fengyu, giving her full respect. He spoke gently but firmly, Master Shin, this is wonderful news. But these ideas, these recipes, and these designs, they all belong to Fengyu. She is the creator. So whatever decision is made, it must be hers first. The discussion flowed smoothly, everyone speaking openly and fairly until they reached a clear agreement. Fengyu agreed to share the recipes for the milk tea, tomato noodles, and garlic bread, but only on one firm condition. I will hand over every detail, she said steadily, but you must promise this. These foods should be made available to everyone, not just the wealthy. Keep the prices reasonable so even ordinary families can afford to taste and enjoy them. Shin Yuan nodded solemnly, his respect for her deepening further. You have my word. We will never hoard your gifts or make them a luxury only few can reach. They will be fairly priced and widely available. Turning to the clothing plans, they agreed that Fei Lan or another tailor would visit the Shin estate soon to take measurements for their family and staff, so everyone could experience the comfort and freedom of the new designs. Then Shin-Yi added thoughtfully, to ensure the taste stays exactly the same and never changes, I believe it would be best if Miss Fengyu personally teaches our head chefs the proper methods and techniques. That way, no matter who prepares it, the quality will always remain true to your original creation. Everyone agreed this was the wisest way. With the terms settled, Fengyu looked around the table and smiled. This is a wonderful partnership. But to make sure nothing is forgotten, misunderstood, or changed later, we should write this all down clearly, sign it, and seal it. A written agreement makes it official, legal, and safe for everyone involved. Uncle Bai and Master Shen both clapped their hands in approval. Exactly so, Master Shen said. A promise sealed in writing is a promise that lasts. We shall prepare the documents immediately. 2 days passed quickly, and the first 2 finished dresses were finally delivered to Feng Yu's room. One was a soft, warm sunshine yellow, the other a gentle, refreshing mint green. The fabric fell in smooth, graceful folds, flowing lightly with every step, and the hem fell neatly just at her ankles, not too long, not too short. Delicate frills trimmed the sleeves, adding a soft, playful charm that suited her perfectly. For the banquet, she chose the mint green one. It felt cool and elegant, like fresh spring leaves. When she stepped out of her room, the whole family paused to admire her. Bai Ling's face lit up instantly. She tugged eagerly at her father's sleeve, her eyes shining with delight. Look how beautiful she is. It fits so perfectly, she whispered happily. Their own sets were still being stitched, but seeing how lovely and graceful Feng Yu looked only made them more eager and excited for their own to be finished. Once everyone was ready, they climbed into their carriage. The wheels rolled steadily over the paved streets, carrying them toward the Grand Shen estate, their hearts light with anticipation for the gathering ahead. After a short ride, the carriage rolled to a halt. Stepping out, the Bai family found themselves staring in awe. This estate was far grander than anything they had pictured. The main gate stood framed by massive, polished stone pillars that towered high, strong and imposing yet beautifully carved. Stepping inside, their breath caught. A vast courtyard opened before them, carpeted with blooming flowers of every hue, surrounding an elegant pavilion with curved tiled roofs. To one side lay a serene, glassy lake, crossed by a graceful arched bridge painted in soft red and white. Lining the winding stone path were rows of plum blossom trees, their branches spreading like welcoming arms. Every step felt like walking through a living painting, majestic and peaceful all at once. Ahead rose the main residence, built high upon a raised foundation of gray stone, wide steps leading upward. Flanking the staircase were lifelike stone dragons, their forms fierce yet protective, guarding the entrance with silent dignity. Once they crossed the threshold, the interior took their breath away completely. It was vast and open, yet never felt empty. Every beam and pillar was carved with delicate cloud and flower patterns, polished until they glowed softly. The furniture was made of rare, deep-grained wood, smooth, solid, and rich in color, upholstered in fabrics of subtle, shimmering shades. There was no clutter, no gaudy excess. Every piece, every decoration was chosen with perfect taste. It spoke of generations of wealth, quiet power, and refined elegance, simple, yet undeniably the finest quality imaginable. The Bai family gasped softly, their eyes darting from one marvel to the next. Feng Yu admired it all calmly, though her mind was moving fast. She had grown up surrounded by luxury far greater than this, so she recognized instantly how rare and valuable every object here truly was. Then her gaze fell upon a certain decorative piece placed in the center hall. Its design, shape, and style were exactly like artifacts she had seen back in her modern world. Her heart skipped a beat. How is this possible? She wondered. Is this world connected to mine somehow? Or is there a history here no one knows? The possibilities swirled in her thoughts, but she pushed them aside for now. I am here for a reason. I will find the answers in time. For now, enjoy the moment. Welcome. Shen Yi walked quickly toward them, his warm greeting faltering the moment his eyes landed on Feng Yu. The mint green dress flowed softly around her, the frills on her sleeves catching the light, making her look fresh and graceful like a spirit of spring. He stood still for a heartbeat, completely mesmerized, before remembering to bow and guide them further inside. Shen Yi recovered his composure quickly and guided them further inside, gesturing warmly toward the gathering. Please, make yourselves at home and enjoy the banquet. Do not stand on ceremony or feel shy, treat this house as your own. He clapped his hands gently, and a small, lively boy came trotting over from the side. "Allow me to introduce my youngest brother, Shinyu. He is 6 years old and the liveliest one in our family." The little boy stood straight, puffing out his chest proudly. He was tall for his age, with bright, sparkling eyes that shone with curiosity and endless energy, and hair tied neatly with a blue silk ribbon. Everyone smiled and offered their greetings. Fengyu bent down slightly, her expression soft and warm, and greeted him gently too. Shinyu's eyes lit up the moment he saw her. He noticed right away that she stood almost exactly as tall as he did, since he was unusually tall for 6, and she looked younger than her actual age. She must be 6 too. He decided instantly. Without hesitation, he reached out, took her hand firmly, and began tugging her toward a side corridor. "Come with me," he chirped enthusiastically. "I want to show you something really special." "Shinyu," Shin-yi called out, half amused and half warning. "Be careful. Don't drag her around or get into mischief." The little boy turned back, nodding vigorously, his hair bouncing. "I promise. I'll be good." He turned back to Fengyu, his face beaming with excitement. "Don't worry, I won't let anyone bother us. I found a secret spot, and I want to show it to you because you look like fun." Fengyu chuckled, letting the earnest little boy lead her away. He certainly was a spirited one, bright, bold, and full of wonder, holding her hand with surprising strength as he hurried along, eager to share his discovery with his new same-age friend. Stepping out into the sunlit courtyard, Shinyu could barely contain his glee, giggling openly as he skipped a step ahead. He'd never had a friend his own size before, and his heart soared. He'd show her his secret hiding place, and they could play there all day long, safe and happy. But halfway along the plum blossom path, their way was suddenly blocked. 3 children stood with arms crossed, smirks twisting their faces. Shinyu's older cousins, who loved nothing more than picking on him when no adults were watching. "Look who it is," sneered Shin Biao, kicking a loose stone. Little coward Shinyu found himself a new toy to drag around. Shin Ping snickered beside him. "Is she your new plaything? Or just another servant girl you found?" Shinyu shrank back slightly, his small hand tightening around Fengyu's. He never fought back. He knew if he did, they would twist the truth and tell their grandfather he was the one being rude and violent, and then he would be the one scolded or punished. He kept his head down, trying to step past them, but they blocked his way again. Then forward stepped Shinmei, the eldest of the group, nearly 10 years old, taller and broader than both Fengyu and Shinyu combined. She loomed over them, her expression arrogant and cruel. "Give me that jade pendant grandfather gave you the other day," she demanded, holding out her palm. "Hand it over right now, or I'll beat you just like last time. And if you dare make a sound, we'll all run to grandfather and tell him you and this strange girl attacked us. He always believes us." She took a threatening step forward, raising her hand ready to slap Shinyu right across the face. But before she could come an inch closer, Fengyu stepped smoothly in front of Shinyu, shielding him completely. Her face was calm, wearing a gentle, unshaken smile, as if their threats were nothing but a breeze passing by. "Stop right there," she said softly, yet her voice carried a quiet weight that made them pause. "If you touch him, you really won't like what happens next." Shinmei blinked, then burst into loud, mocking laughter. "Who do you think you are? A little shrimp smaller than me dares to speak? Get her," she shouted to her cousins. "Grab stones and sticks. Teach these 2 little brats a lesson they won't forget." Shin Biao and Shin Ping scrambled to obey, snatching up fallen branches and sharp pebbles from the ground, grinning maliciously as they advanced to surround them. Shinyu trembled behind Fengyu, but Fengyu only rolled her shoulders slightly, her smile sharpening. "Little bullies," she thought. "You picked the wrong people to mess with today." Shinmei and her cousins paid her warning no mind at all. They were used to Shinyu simply shrinking away in fear and expected this small girl to do the same. They had bullied him countless times before. No matter how much they pushed or stole from him, he never fought back, only stayed silent even when their grandfather asked what happened. That silence often made the old master scold Shinyu instead, though he always warned the others to behave. Warnings they ignored the moment they were out of sight. This time would be very different. Fengyu stepped forward, standing firmly in the center between them, her posture calm but ready. She knew her strength was far greater than it seemed. She had to be careful. One wrong move could easily break bones, and causing serious injury would bring trouble to the Bai family. So she decided on the lightest, most harmless punishment that would still sting enough to teach them a lesson. A sharp flick to the forehead. Shinmei charged first, swinging her wooden stick straight toward Fengyu's head. In the blink of an eye, Fengyu caught the stick midair with one hand, stopping it dead. Before Shinmei could even gasp, Fengyu reached out and flicked her forehead hard and crisp. Ouch! Shinmei shrieked, stumbling back, clutching her forehead. A bright red bump instantly swelled right in the center. It hurts. Get her. Get her now, she wailed at her cousins. Shin Biao and Shin Ping rushed in together, waving sticks and throwing stones, but Fengyu was faster than both of them combined. She dodged easily, stepping inside their reach, grabbed Shin Biao by the wrist, twisted him gently but firmly off balance, and flicked his forehead, another bump rising instantly. Before Shin Ping could run away, she caught his collar, pulled him close, and gave him the exact same treatment. Within moments, all three older children were sitting or kneeling on the ground, wailing loudly, each with a matching swollen red mark on their foreheads. Shinyu stood frozen behind her, his eyes wide and round, staring in utter daze and confusion. He had never seen anyone stand up to his cousins, let alone defeat all three so easily. Fengyu dusted off her hands as if she had only brushed away dust, her expression serious. Listen well, she told them firmly. If I ever see you bullying Shinyu or anyone else again, the next time won't be just a flick. Do you understand? Too busy crying and nursing their bumps, they could only nod frantically through their tears. Satisfied, Fengyu turned around, grabbed Shinyu's hand quickly, and gave him a gentle smile. Come on, Shinyu. Let's go, they've learned their lesson. And together they hurried away, leaving the three bullies behind them, still howling in pain and holding their swollen foreheads. At last, Shinyu's face broke into a bright, relieved smile, and he tugged her hand eagerly to lead her onward. We're almost there, he whispered excitedly. They wove deeper through the thicket of plum blossom trees, branches brushing softly against their shoulders. Just ahead, Fengyu spotted an old stone wall completely draped in tangled green vines. Shinyu pointed to a low, narrow opening near the base, barely big enough to squeeze through. That's the way, he said, dropping to his knees. Follow me. Once they crawled through, Fengyu gasped softly. Tucked away behind the wall lay a hidden paradise, a tiny, sun-dappled garden bursting with wild flowers, small fruit trees heavy with unripe peaches and plums, and soft green grass underfoot. Right in the center rested a perfectly round, clear pond, where two broad lotus leaves floated serenely on the water's surface. It was quiet, peaceful, and untouched. Shinyu looked up at her anxiously, his eyes shining. Do you like it? It's my very own secret spot. Fengyu chuckled warmly, kneeling down beside him. I love it, it's beautiful. But, are you sure it's really a secret? She glanced around thoughtfully. It feels more like this family simply owns so much land and such a huge estate that no one bothers to come all the way out here. Everyone is busy in the main houses or the grander gardens, so this little corner was forgotten. A soft nostalgia washed over her. This reminds me so much of the story I read back home, The Secret Garden, she thought. The only difference is that story had a locked door. Here. I have to crawl through a dog hole. And this is actually the second time I've had to do that since arriving in this world. She smiled to herself at the odd familiarity. Shinyu, she asked gently, have you ever looked for a proper door? A real one we could just walk through. He shook his head, his expression falling slightly. I looked everywhere. I found this place by accident when chasing a butterfly. I tried and tried to find a door, but the wall goes on forever. I asked my parents and my big brothers too, but they all said there's nothing back here, just old walls and weeds. So I stopped asking. But it's good no one knows about it, so no bullies can find me here. Feng Yu's heart softened. She placed a hand firmly on his shoulder. Xinyu, listen to me. You shouldn't let others push you around or make you feel small. If they start trouble, you don't have to just stand there and take it. As long as you don't start the fight, you have every right to stand up for yourself and finish it. Look at you, you're tall and strong for a 6-year-old. You're plenty capable. Xinyu blinked, then puffed out his chest proudly. Right? And we're the same age. And the same height too. We're equals. Feng Yu burst into hearty laughter, shaking her head. Oh, little one. I hate to break it to you, but I'm already 12 years old. I'm just small and skinny because I was very sickly and had a hard life before I came here. But I'm stronger than I look now. Xinyu's mouth fell open in pure shock, his eyes going wide as saucers as he stared up at her, suddenly realizing his new friend wasn't just another kid, but actually quite a bit older. Xinyu's eyes went even wider, and he suddenly slapped a hand over his mouth. Oh, I just realized I still don't know your name. I dragged you all the way here, and you even stood up for me, and I haven't even asked properly. He scratched his cheek, looking suddenly shy and earnest. What should I call you? Feng Yu smiled softly at his honesty. You can call me Feng Yu. Just Feng Yu. She kept her family name hidden for now, not wanting to draw unnecessary attention or complicate things further. Xinyu beamed instantly, his face lighting up with delight. Feng Yu? We share the same character then. My name is Xinyu too. That means we were meant to meet. He bounced on his toes happily, feeling an even stronger bond with her now. Then his gaze drifted down to her mint green dress, admiring how it moved and how the frills swayed. And your clothes are so pretty too. They look different from the long robes we always wear, so light and graceful. Where did you get them? This is a new design I created, Feng Yu explained proudly. Uncle Bai and I are starting a business making clothes like this, practical, comfortable, and beautiful. Soon, I hope many people all over the city will be wearing them. Xinyu nodded in awe but didn't fully understand what she meant. Then he leaned in closer, lowering his voice curiously. And how are you so strong? How did you learn to fight like that? You moved so fast. She patted his head gently. Someone taught me when I was very young. I learned so I could protect myself and the people I care about, just like I protected you today. It's a skill to keep safe, not to hurt others. They sat together on the soft grass by the pond, talking and laughing freely, completely unaware that trouble was brewing far away in the main hall. Back at the banquet, the three cousins Xin Mei, Xin Biao, and Xin Ping had stumbled back, their foreheads red, swollen, and throbbing painfully. Tears streamed down their faces, their earlier arrogance replaced by humiliation and burning rage. They knew they couldn't admit they had been bullying Xinyu, that would get them in trouble. So they quickly agreed on a lie, twisting the truth completely. When they burst into the main hall crying loudly, every head turned. Their parents and elders rushed forward in alarm. What happened? Who did this to you? Between sobs and sniffles, Xin Mei spoke first, her voice trembling with feigned hurt. We were just walking peacefully along the path, minding our own business. Then Xinyu came with that strange little girl, the one dressed in odd clothes. They blocked our way and started hitting us. She flicked us and pushed us down for no reason at all. Xin Biao nodded vigorously, rubbing his swollen forehead. It's true. We didn't do anything. We just said hello, and she got angry and attacked us. She said she would beat us again if we told anyone. Xin Ping added, she was so rude. And her clothes were weird, nothing like what proper people wear. They ganged up on us, 2 against 3. The hall fell into stunned silence, then whispers and murmurs spread quickly. The parents of the 3 children looked furious, their faces dark with anger. How dare a guest from outside, and a child no less, hurt their kin? A storm of indignation and rage began to build, sweeping through the gathering, all directed at Feng Yu and Xinyu, who were still laughing peacefully in their hidden garden. Xinyuan hurried over as the noise rose, having been deep in conversation with Merchant Bai about their partnership plans. The Bai family exchanged alarmed glances the moment they heard the description, a girl in strange clothes. They knew instantly who was being spoken of, yet not a single one of them believed a word of it. They had lived alongside Feng Yu for days. She was calm, kind, and fair, never starting trouble. She would only ever act if she or someone else was truly provoked. Master Shin stepped forward, his expression serious and stern. "Tell me plainly, are you speaking the truth?" Before the children could answer, Shin Mei's mother stepped in, face flushed with anger. "Father, of course they are telling the truth. My daughter has never lied a day in her life. How can you even doubt them?" At that, Shin Mei wailed even louder, clutching her forehead. "Grandpa doesn't believe me. Look what she did." She pulled back her hand to show the angry, swollen bump, then pointed at Shin Biao and Shin Ping, who mirrored the injury exactly. "And the boys too. They hurt us for no reason." Just then Shin Yi pushed through the crowd, and seeing the three puffy, red foreheads, he couldn't help but let out a short, dry laugh. He shook his head, stepping beside his grandfather. "You all look quite miserable. And I know exactly what happened." His voice turned firm. "Shin Yu has come to me many times saying they pick on him, but nothing was ever done. I stayed silent because I hoped things would settle, but now I see clearly who the bullies truly are." Shin Yuan stood quietly, observing everything with wise, weary eyes. He had known what was happening all along, how some of his grandchildren ganged up on the quiet, gentle Shin Yu, how his own children treated each other with cold politeness behind his back. He had stayed silent before, hoping Shin Yu would learn to stand on his own 2 feet. But seeing this scene unfold, he realized his silence had only made things worse. Ever since his youngest son had vanished 15 years ago, he had grown lenient, letting small problems slide, but that was no way to lead a family. Later, he thought, "I will call every single one of my children and have a long, honest talk. This stops now." For now, he turned to the boys. "Where is Shin Yu?" Shin Biao wiped his tears and pointed. He ran away. That strange girl dragged him off somewhere far away." "I'll go find them," Shin Yi said calmly, turning to walk toward the gardens. Back in the hidden garden, Feng Yu and Shin Yu were still wandering, amazed by what they found. What looked like a small corner from the outside stretched on and on, paths winding between fruit trees and flowering bushes, opening into wider clearings. It was far larger than it seemed, and easy to get lost in if you didn't pay attention. Then, faintly, they heard a voice calling, "Shin Yu? Little brother? Where are you?" Shin Yu's head snapped up, eyes lighting up. "That's my brother. That's Shin Yi." Feng Yu stood up, brushing grass from her dress. "We should go. It sounds like they are looking for us." Hand in hand, they began making their way back toward the vine-covered wall, unaware of the storm waiting for them. They quickly crawled back out through the opening, dusting grass and dirt from their clothes and smoothing their hair. Hand in hand, they ran toward the familiar voice and soon spotted Shin Yi waiting ahead. As he saw them approaching, Shin Yi stepped forward immediately, gently patting his little brother's head. There was no anger in his eyes, only warmth and gratitude. He turned to Feng Yu and bowed slightly. "Thank you for looking out for him and keeping him safe today." Feng Yu smiled easily, shaking her head. "It was nothing. I just stepped in when it was needed." Shin Yi turned back to Shin Yu, his tone soft but earnest. "You know, little one, sometimes you have to be brave enough to stand up for yourself too. You are strong, don't ever forget that." Shin Yu nodded vigorously, his small face serious. "I know. And Feng Yu is strong too, so I want her to teach me. I want to be just like her." Feng Yu blinked, completely taken aback. They had never even spoken about lessons or training. "Oh no, wait. I'm really not the right person to teach you." "But you are." Shin Yu insisted firmly, grabbing her hand. "You're my big sister now, even if we are the same height." Shin Yi burst out laughing at that, shaking his head. "We can talk about this properly when we get home with father and mother. But for now, we should hurry back. Grandfather is waiting for you both." He leaned down to whisper to Shin Yu, "Don't worry. I think grandfather finally understands exactly what has been going on." After walking back through the grand gardens and courtyards, they reached the main hall. All eyes turned toward them instantly, lingering longest on Fengyu. Her mint green dress and frilled sleeves were unlike anything the guests had ever seen, making her look wonderfully strange and unique. Before anyone could speak, Madame Zhang hurried over, checking Fengyu from head to toe with deep concern. "Are you all right, child? Did they hurt you anywhere?" She stood close beside her, protective and unyielding, letting everyone know she would not stand for anyone mistreating her. Fengyu's heart warmed. "I am perfectly fine, Auntie Zhang. Truly, there is nothing to worry about. Thank you." She looked past her and saw Bai Jingwan, Bai Wei, and Bai Ling all stepping forward, standing shoulder to shoulder right in front of her. They faced the angry mothers of Shenmei and the boys, their backs straight and defiant, ready to shield her from any accusations or unfair words. The Bai family stood firm, forming a protective wall around Fengyu, ready to defend her against any unfair blame. Then Master Shen stepped forward, his presence commanding silence across the hall. He looked directly at Shenyu, his voice calm but steady. "Tell me exactly what happened out there. Why do those three have swollen foreheads, and why were you running off?" Shenyu hesitated, twisting his fingers nervously. He glanced toward Fengyu, who stood beside the Bai siblings watching him. She gave him a gentle, encouraging smile and nodded, letting him know he was safe to speak the truth. Taking a deep breath, he turned to his grandfather and spoke clearly, his voice trembling only slightly at first. "I was taking Fengyu to see my favorite place. On the way, Shen Mei, Shen Biao, and Shen Ping blocked our path. Sister Mei demanded the jade pendant you gave me. When I told her no, she got angry. She told the boys to pick up stones and sticks to hit us. But Fengyu stepped in front of me to protect me. She only flicked their foreheads lightly when they tried to hurt us. And then she told them never to bully anyone again." A murmur rippled through the crowd. No one knew exactly whom to believe. Family loyalties were divided. Some held old grievances against others, while some were close. The truth hung in the balance, uncertain and heavy. Master Shen rested a hand gently on Shenyu's shoulder, his eyes soft with relief and pride. "You spoke well, child. I am glad you finally found the courage to speak up." He looked around at his family, his expression turning grave. "And I too must change. For too long I stayed silent. I turned a blind eye, hoping you would sort things out yourselves, thinking silence would keep the peace. But I see now that my silence only let unfairness grow." He straightened his back firmly. "That ends today. Once this banquet is over, every one of my children will gather, and we will speak plainly and honestly about what has been happening. No more secrets, no more hidden grudges. For now, these three must be punished. They tried to steal from a family member and threatened harm. That will not be tolerated." The mothers of Shenmei, Biao, and Ping opened their mouths to protest, but fell silent instantly. Their husbands were already glaring at them sharply, warning them to hold their tongues. To argue further, especially in front of guests, would only bring more shame upon their family and reveal their own poor parenting. They swallowed their anger and grievances, bowing their heads in submission. Order was restored, and for the first time in a long while, the air in the Shen household felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had finally been lifted. No sooner had the matter been settled and calm restored than the main entrance doors opened once more. In walked Shen Yi's parents and his two elder brothers. They had traveled from another city and only just returned home, arriving late to the gathering. They could sense immediately that something had occurred earlier. The atmosphere still held a faint trace of tension, though they knew nothing of what had transpired. Shen Chang, Shen Yi's father, stepped forward first to bow respectfully before Master Shen. "Father, we have returned safely. All business matters in Luoyang were concluded smoothly, and arrangements have been made as instructed." Master Shen nodded approvingly, his expression softening. "Well done. You have managed things well." Following him came his wife, Madame Su, and behind them walked the twin brothers, Shen Xianyan and Shen Xianyi, both 23 years old, tall, and dignified in bearing. They bowed in unison to their grandfather. "Greetings, grandfather." Master Shen smiled warmly at them all. "Welcome home. The journey must have tired you. Go rest briefly, then join everyone to eat and enjoy the feast. Shinju's face lit up brighter than ever the moment he saw them, especially his mother. He darted forward, rushing straight into her open arms and hugging her tightly. Madame Su laughed softly, embracing him with all her love and stroking his hair. Shinju had been a wonderful surprise, born fully 14 years after Shin-yi, and they cherished their youngest son deeply, loving him all the more for the long gap between him and his brothers. Mother. Mother. Shinju chirped happily. I made a new friend today. She's older than me, but we are exactly the same height. He turned and pointed eagerly toward where Fengyu sat comfortably at the table with the Bai family. Madame Su had heard of the Bai family's reputation, though their paths had never crossed before. She looked over curiously, her gaze falling upon Fengyu, dressed in that lovely mint-green dress with frilled sleeves, looking calm and graceful, yet distinctively different from everyone else in the room. She is called Fengyu, Shinju told her proudly. Just then, Fengyu lifted her head and glanced toward them, meeting Madame Su's eyes for a brief moment. Madame Su drew in a quiet breath, her heart giving a strange, sudden lurch. She tilted her head slightly, staring in wonder. There was something so achingly familiar in that look, in the shape of her eyes and the way she carried herself, something she could not quite place, yet felt as though she had known it all her life. With the matter settled and tensions eased, Master Shin raised his cup and spoke warmly to everyone gathered. Let the banquet begin. Please eat, drink, and be merry. Treat this home as your own. Servants moved gracefully through the hall, placing dish after dish upon the tables until they were abundantly filled. First came the golden, crisp toasted garlic bread, glistening gently with butter and sending out an irresistible savory fragrance. Next arrived steaming bowls of tomato and egg noodles, the sauce rich and glossy, resting atop springy fresh noodles. They were followed by tender honey-glazed roasted pork, aromatic spiced chicken braised with star anise and ginger, bright plates of stir-fried seasonal vegetables, and delicate osmanthus honey cakes dusted with fine sugar. There were also steamed fish topped with ginger scallions, crisp pickled vegetables to cleanse the palate, and soft steamed buns filled with sweet red bean paste. Finally, large pitchers of iced milk tea were set down, cold and creamy, beads of condensation glistening on the ceramic jars. The Bai family exchanged knowing, pleased smiles. They recognized these dishes, yet they were prepared by different hands here at the Shin estate. They were eager to taste how they turned out, curious to see if the flavor matched what Fengyu had made. For the Shin family and other guests, these were entirely new creations. The wonderful aroma wrapping around the table made their stomachs growl and their mouths water. They waited only for the host's signal before reaching out eagerly. The first bite of noodles made their eyes widen instantly. The bright, tangy sweetness of tomatoes blended perfectly with the smooth sauce, clinging to every strand. It was unlike any noodle dish they had ever tasted, light yet full of flavor. They paired it with the garlic bread. The satisfying crunch against the soft, buttery interior was pure delight, making them eat faster and reach for more. Even the usually polite and refined guests ate with genuine relish, chopsticks moving quickly, bowls emptying rapidly. The Bai family savored every mouthful too. The taste was excellent, very close to Fengyu's cooking, perfectly seasoned and beautifully made. Yet they could tell a subtle difference. It was still missing that special touch, that unique balance Fengyu always achieved. Still, it was incredibly delicious, and they enjoyed the tender roasted pork that melted on the tongue, the fragrant spiced chicken falling easily from the bone, and the fresh vegetables that retained their crispness and natural sweetness. When they took sips of the cold milk tea, creamy and sweet, perfectly chilled, a collective sigh of pleasure rippled through the room. Rich, smooth, and refreshing, it washed away the richness of the food and left them feeling light and satisfied. The banquet was a magnificent success, and everyone agreed these new dishes were truly a treasure. Every bowl was emptied, every plate wiped clean, and finally everyone leaned back in their seats, letting out long, contented sighs. Their bellies felt full and light, the lingering sweetness of the milk tea leaving a refreshing coolness that settled comfortably after the rich meal. Shin-yi and Master Shin shared a knowing look across the table, a faint smile tugging at the corners of their lips. It was exactly the same scene they had witnessed at the Bai estate. Eyes wide with wonder, chopsticks moving faster than usual, and that quiet, unmistakable delight when tasting something truly extraordinary for the first time. Around them, the rest of the Shin family and guests were equally enchanted. Even the quietest and most reserved relatives could not help but lean toward one another, whispering excitedly, "That noodle dish. I could eat 3 bowls of it every day and never grow tired," one cousin murmured, patting his stomach happily. "And that bread. Crisp, buttery, fragrant. How have we never thought to make bread like that before?" Another chimed in, wiping a crumb from his chin. The twins, Shin Xianyan and Shin Xianyi, exchanged amazed glances, their usual calm composure melting away. "The flavors are unlike anything served in the capital," Xianyan said quietly. "Simple ingredients, yet combined so perfectly." Madame Su watched the empty plates with delight, her gaze drifting once again to Fengyu. "Even the children ate without complaint," she noted softly. "There is magic in these recipes, truly." Every face held nothing but genuine pleasure and amazement. The initial hesitation some had felt was completely gone, replaced by eager anticipation. They understood now why their grandfather and Shin-yi had spoken so highly of this partnership. These dishes were not just food, they were a sensation, and they knew their family's business would flourish more than ever before. The banquet was far more than just a feast. After everyone had eaten their fill and rested, the hall filled with warm conversation, discussions of trade, new partnerships, and the promising future of their joint ventures. Before long, most guests began wandering out to explore the grounds, for the Shin estate was legendary in its size and grandeur. It stretched endlessly, its boundaries reaching all the way to the foot of the mist-veiled mountains behind, where ancient trees stood tall and wild nature thrived untouched. Full of energy once more, Shinyu tugged gently at Fengyu's sleeve, eager to show her more. Madame Zhang and Madame Su smiled fondly, letting the 2 children go. They knew this place was safe, and their hearts were at ease seeing Shinyu so happy. But as they vanished among the trees, Jingyuan and Bai Ling quietly slipped after them, curious and wanting to keep Fengyu company. Not long after, Shin-yi and the twin brothers, Shin Xianyan and Shin Xianyi, also followed at a distance. After what had happened earlier, none of them were willing to take chances, not until the 3 mischievous cousins had received their proper punishment. They wanted to ensure no one would dare trouble them again. They walked along winding paths, sunlight filtering softly through the leaves, until Fengyu paused and turned around with an amused smile. "We have company," she said gently. "Let's stop for a moment and greet them." Shinyu spun around, blinking in surprise to see his 3 older brothers, plus Jingyuan and Ling standing just a few steps behind them. Fengyu stepped forward gracefully and bowed to the twins. "Greetings. My name is Fengyu." The tall, dignified young men returned her greeting warmly. "We are Shin Xianyan and Shin Xianyi. It is a pleasure to meet you, Fengyu. Would you like to walk with us?" Fengyu invited openly. Jingyuan nodded quickly, stepping closer. "We would. But we must all be careful, this place is so vast, and we do not know the paths well." Shin-yi and the twins agreed wholeheartedly. "Even we who were born and raised here barely explore beyond the main courtyards," Xianyan explained, looking out over the endless stretch of forest and hills. "It is said that if you truly wanted to walk every path, every grove, and every hidden corner, it would take weeks, even months, to see it all." Fengyu gasped softly, her eyes lighting up with wonder. "Truly? That is magnificent, though I wish I could come and go freely to explore it all." Xianyi patted Shinyu's head gently. "Little brother, are you sure you know where you are leading us? We don't want to get lost." Shinyu puffed out his chest confidently, his eyes sparkling. "I've gone there many times while everyone else was busy. I know every turn and stone along the way. Don't worry, there are no wild beasts or dangerous creatures there. It is the best place in the whole estate. Reassured, the group smiled and nodded, ready to follow their young guide. They walked and talked along soft mossy paths for more than 30 minutes, the air growing fresher and cooler as they ventured further from the main halls. Shinyu, leading the way, turned back with a glowing face, his voice bright with excitement. We're almost there. Just past that huge, ancient tree with the twisted trunk, and then you'll see. They stepped around the massive, gnarled oak, its branches spreading wide like an old guardian, and the view suddenly opened up before them, leaving everyone breathless. Before them lay a vast, natural amphitheater cradled between gentle slopes. A crystal-clear stream cascaded down from the distant mountains, tumbling over smooth gray stones in a series of tiny silver waterfalls before winding through the center of the clearing. Wildflowers of every hue carpeted the banks. Pale lavender, golden yellow, and soft crimson, their petals swaying in the breeze. Ancient pines and willows stood sentinel around the edges, their roots weaving into the earth, while sunlight spilled down from above, painting the grass in shifting patterns of gold and emerald. It felt untouched, peaceful, and breathtakingly majestic, a hidden masterpiece carved by nature itself, quiet and grand beyond words. For a moment, no one spoke. They simply stood drinking in the beauty. Then Shin Xianyan let out a soft breath of wonder, a distant, nostalgic smile touching his lips. I have been here before. I had completely forgotten. He looked around, memory surfacing like bubbles in water. It was years ago. Xian Yi and I were barely older than Xinyu is now. We argued endlessly about something silly, who could run faster, or whose toy was finer, and we ran off to hide here, refusing to speak to one another. Before long, Father came searching with a whole troop of servants, calling our names until we finally crept out. He chuckled warmly, glancing at his twin brother, who grinned back in understanding. We never came back after that. What a shame. This place truly is extraordinary. It calms the heart just standing here. Xinyu beamed proudly, spreading his arms wide as if embracing the whole valley. See? I told you. This is the best place. Fengyu stood still, drinking in the sight before her. It was true. This place was breathtakingly beautiful, pristine, and untouched by human hands. She thought of her old world. There were magnificent places there too, yet so often people seemed unable to simply cherish them. Instead, they scarred the land, littered its beauty, or broadcasted their selfishness and bitterness online, turning wonders into spectacles of greed and foolishness. She let out a soft, quiet sigh. But here in this unknown world, I get to see nature as it truly is, pure and unspoiled. As she turned to walk along the edge of the stream, her gaze caught a faint movement in the tall grass. Two slender, snow-white ears peeked out, standing tall and pointed. A gentle smile touched her lips. She held her breath and stepped forward slowly, carefully, making no sound. Rabbit? Or a fox? She couldn't tell yet, but the ears were delicate and elegant. She drew nearer, and the creature lifted its head, revealing a small face covered in soft, pure white fur, with bright, intelligent eyes. It was a white fox. For a long moment, they simply looked at one another, neither moving nor afraid. Then Fengyu spoke softly, her voice like a breeze. "Hello there, little one." Slowly, cautiously, the fox stepped out from the grass. It didn't run. Instead, it walked straight toward her, its tail swaying gently. Fengyu crouched down to be at its level and reached out her hand. The fox leaned forward, pressing its warm head into her palm. It didn't flinch, didn't pull away. Instead, it closed its eyes as she stroked the soft, thick fur on its head, leaning closer and closer as if completely at peace, almost as if it recognized her. Smiling warmly, she lifted the small creature gently into her arms and stood up, turning back to the others. "Look what I found." Xinyu and Bai Ling gasped in delight and rushed over immediately, their eyes wide with wonder. Jinghuan, Xin Yi, and the twins followed quickly, their expressions one of awe. "A white fox." Xin Xianyan breathed, stepping closer carefully. That is incredibly rare, especially this close to home. They are seldom seen in these parts. Xianyi nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the beautiful creature resting so calmly in Feng Yu's arms. White foxes are not ordinary animals. In the old stories, they are said to be special creatures, gentle and wise, appearing only to those with good hearts or great destiny. It is a sign of great fortune that it came to you so easily. The fox nestled comfortably against Feng Yu's chest, looking back at the group with calm, unafraid eyes, as if it belonged right there with her. They stayed there for nearly an hour, but the little white fox refused to leave Feng Yu's side. Even when she gently told it she couldn't possibly take it away from its home, the fox simply leaped lightly onto her shoulder, pressing its soft, warm cheek against hers with a quiet, pleading whimper. There was no resisting such pure affection. Helpless and charmed, she turned to the Shin brothers. This place belongs to your family, but it seems this little one has decided to belong to me. May I take her with me? Shin Xianyan smiled warmly. Animals have their own wisdom. If she has chosen you, then she is yours. We will simply tell grandfather what has happened, he will understand. Bai Ling clapped her hands happily, and Jinghuan nodded in quiet approval. With their hearts light and their new little companion secure, they decided it was time to head back. They had only walked a short distance when the fox suddenly pricked its ears, leaped down from Feng Yu's arms, and darted off toward a thick cluster of trees. It paused and looked back, tilting its head as if urging her to follow. Wait, Feng Yu called softly, quickening her steps. It's all right, she won't lead us astray, she reassured the others, hurrying after the creature. The group followed, winding past ancient trunks and tangled vines, until the fox stopped abruptly and stood still. Pushing through the foliage, Feng Yu's breath caught. Ahead lay a magnificent golden tiger, its coat glowing like sunlight through amber. But one of its massive front paws was held up, dark blood staining the fur, and it looked at them with eyes heavy with pain. Feng Yu's heart raced. Tigers were powerful, dangerous beasts, but this one was hurt and afraid. The white fox trotted fearlessly toward the great cat, nuzzling its nose gently, proving they were old friends. Then it looked back at Feng Yu, trotted over, and nipped softly at the hem of her dress, tugging gently toward the tiger. Behind her, the others froze, their hearts hammering in their chests. Shin Yu stepped forward bravely, wanting to stand beside her, but Shin Yi held him back, shaking his head. Any sudden movement could be deadly. They held their breath, terrified yet mesmerized. Feng Yu walked forward slowly, her hands open and empty. Hello there, big fellow, she spoke in a calm, soothing voice. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help. The tiger lowered its massive head, its eyes softening. It shifted its weight and stretched its injured paw toward her, trusting her completely. I'm not a healer, she murmured, kneeling beside it, but let's see what we can do. The tiger was far taller than her even lying down. If you can, please lie flat for me. I need to see your paw clearly. As if it understood every word, the great beast lowered itself fully onto the grass with a heavy sigh. Gently lifting its paw, Feng Yu gasped. Embedded deep in the flesh was a sharp, jagged piece of metal, shaped like the spike traps used to puncture tires in her old world, crafted with cruel, jagged edges. Hold still, she whispered. Gritting her teeth, she pulled firmly and steadily. With a soft wet sound, the metal came free. Immediately, the white fox trotted over with a mouthful of cool, medicinal herbs, dropping them right into her palm. Feng Yu crushed the leaves gently, pressing them over the wound to stop the bleeding. She untied the fine silk ribbon from her hair, winding it tightly but carefully around the paw to hold the herbs in place. The tiger let out a long, deep sigh of relief. Slowly, it stood up, leaned down, and licked the back of Feng Yu's hand, rough yet gentle. She laughed softly, patting its great cheek. The others watched in stunned silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. A girl bonding with a tiger as if it were a loyal hound. All right, you're all patched up now, Feng Yu said, starting to rise. But before she could stand, the tiger leaned down and rested its heavy head upon her shoulder, pressing close, clearly unwilling to be left alone in pain. At the same moment, the white fox nudged her hand, then darted over to Xinyu, leaping onto his shoulder and curling up there, keeping him company. Xinyu beamed with delight, though his hands still trembled slightly. Fengyu turned back to the others, holding up the cruel metal spike. "Look at this," she said seriously. "This isn't natural. It's man-made, designed to hurt. And if this one is here, there are likely more hidden all over this mountain." Shen Xianyi stepped forward, still wide-eyed with awe and fear, taking the spike carefully. He turned it over, his expression growing grave. "You are right. This is no ordinary trap. It's made with skill and purpose. Whoever placed these is not just a hunter. They are dangerous strangers trespassing on our land." He looked at his brother. "This mountain is vast, too large for us to patrol every corner. They must have entered from the far side, where the cliffs are steep and unguarded. We must report this immediately to grandfather and the elders. This is serious trouble." Fengyu turned back to the tiger. "Can you walk now, big guy?" The tiger shook its head slowly, limping slightly when it shifted its weight. Fengyu blinked, astonished. He actually understood me. "Well, don't worry. I'll carry you." "Carry?" Jingyuan stepped forward, alarmed. "Fengyu, it's a tiger. It's huge." But Fengyu was already moving. She stepped beside the massive creature, braced her legs, and lifted it gently, sliding its weight easily onto her back, just as she had done with the giant boar on their journey long ago. The tiger rested its weight carefully, mindful of its injured paw, settling comfortably against her. She chuckled softly to herself, remembering that day in the caravan. It was heavy, truly heavy, but her strength was more than enough. "Come on, everyone," she said cheerfully, adjusting the great cat on her back. "Let's head home. We have a lot to tell them." And so the strange procession began, Fengyu walking steadily carrying a golden tiger, Xinyu walking proudly with a white fox on his shoulder, and the rest following behind, still shaking their heads in disbelief at the wonders they had witnessed this day. The sun dipped low toward the horizon, painting the sky in warm hues of amber, and rose as the group made their way slowly down the winding paths. Back at the estate, the afternoon had stretched into evening, and worry began to creep into the hearts of those waiting. Madame Zhang paced anxiously, turning to her husband. "It has been so long, they still haven't returned. I can't help but feel uneasy." Only Bai Wei remained behind, looking equally restless, having stayed back while the others went exploring. Madame Su shared the same fear, her eyes darting toward the garden entrance again and again. "My boys have never stayed away this late. Something must be wrong." Master Shin overheard their concerns and stood at once, his expression serious. "Send guards and search parties into the grounds immediately. Find them." "We are coming too," Uncle Bai said firmly, stepping beside him. Shin Chang nodded in agreement, supporting his wife, and soon the whole group, parents, elders, and concerned guests, set out together toward the back mountain. A servant reported seeing the children heading that way, so they followed the trail, their steps quick and heavy with worry. Though wild beasts were rarely seen near the estate, the forest was vast and danger always lurked in the unknown. They walked in tense silence until suddenly, faint laughter drifted down the slope. It was bright, unafraid, and unmistakably Xinyu's voice, chattering happily. And she just walked right up to him. He didn't even growl. Further up, the group walked slowly. Bai Ling clung gently to Jingyuan's arm, still wide-eyed but calm. The twins walked beside Shen Yi, shaking their heads in disbelief at everything they had just witnessed. Then Xian Yan leaned closer, whispering, "Is this really the same girl who lifted that massive stone during the competition?" Shen Yi nodded proudly, a faint smile touching his lips. "The very same. And remember the bandits we heard about? She defeated them by throwing an entire wild boar at them." "It's true," Jingyuan confirmed from ahead. "My father was there with her. He saw it all happen." The twins exchanged a look, then let out a long, quiet sigh, realizing they had met someone truly extraordinary. Meanwhile, the search party had frozen in their tracks. The guards at the front stopped dead, their eyes bulging, hands gripping their spears until their knuckles turned white. One servant pointed a trembling finger upward, unable to speak. Everyone looked, and their jaws dropped open, so wide they nearly hit the ground. Xian Yan stepped forward, his voice steady but serious. "We should return to the estate now. There is much we need to discuss, not only about the tiger and the fox, but about what we found on the mountain." Master Shin nodded gravely. "You are right. Let us go." The other guests practically scrambled to turn back, hurrying away as fast as politeness allowed, casting nervous glances over their shoulders. Even the Shin relatives quickened their steps, keeping a safe distance from the golden tiger walking calmly beside Fengyu. Walking a little to the side, Bai Wei shook his head with a playful sigh, falling into step beside Fengyu. "I can't believe I stayed behind. It's such a waste. I miss seeing all this magic with my own eyes. I'm actually jealous of Jingyuan and Linger right now." Fengyu chuckled warmly. "Don't worry, Brother Wei. There will be plenty more chances for you to see things like this in the future." Madame Zhang, walking just ahead, nearly tripped over her own feet and spun around, eyes wide with alarm. "Do not speak of such things so casually. What if more dangerous things happen?" She looked pale at the mere thought, making the others laugh softly despite the tension. At the front of the group, Shinyu walked proudly, holding the white fox gently in his arms as he chattered nonstop to his parents. He told them every detail about the fox and how Fengyu had helped the tiger. Madame Su listened in awe, never imagining her gentle youngest son would be so brave and so fond of creatures. He seemed bolder even than his older brothers. "Mother," Shinyu said happily, holding the fox up slightly, "you can pet her too. She's very soft and gentle. Look, she likes you already." When they finally arrived back at the estate, Master Shin immediately gave orders. "Send for the best physician in the city at once. And prepare the entire West Wing. It is quiet, spacious, and separate. The Bai family will stay there tonight so everyone is comfortable." Madame Zhang hesitated at first, not wanting to impose, but then she looked at Fengyu, who was gently supporting the tiger's weight, and nodded gratefully. It was the safest place for everyone. Fengyu led the tiger into the largest room of the West Wing and carefully guided it onto a wide, sturdy bed piled high with soft blankets. The servants who followed stood frozen at the doorway, trembling so hard they could barely hold their trays of hot water and clean cloths. Moments later, the physician arrived, hurrying in with his medical box. But the moment he lifted his head and saw the great golden tiger lying on the bed, his knees gave way completely. He landed with a soft thud right on the floor, his spectacles slipping down his nose. I treat people," he stammered, his face pale. Not great beasts." Fengyu smiled kindly, stepping forward to help him up. "It's all right, doctor. I promise he won't hurt anyone. I'll be right here the whole time." But the poor man was sweating profusely, beads rolling down his forehead. Master Shin stepped forward, his voice firm but encouraging. "Do not fear. If you treat him well, you will be rewarded with gold enough to last your family for years." After much gentle coaxing, Fengyu explained, he stepped on a sharp metal spike. "I pulled it out and applied wild herbs, but the wound is deep and needs proper care." The physician sighed shakily, wiping his brow. "Water, please, give me water." A servant rushed forward with a bowl, and he drank it all in one long gulp, still trembling. Slowly, he stepped closer to the bed. Suddenly, the tiger lifted its head and let out a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the room. Everyone froze, hearts leaping into their throats. But Fengyu simply reached out and stroked his great head firmly. Now, she chided gently. "Be good. If you are rude, no one will help your paw get better." As if understanding every word, the tiger immediately closed his eyes, lowered his head, and rubbed his cheek affectionately against her stomach, letting out a soft whimper. The room held its breath for a moment longer before everyone slowly exhaled, relaxing just a little. "Help me, child," the physician whispered. Fengyu nodded and carefully untied the silk ribbon she had used as a bandage. He leaned in, inspecting the injury. "The herbs have done well," he murmured in surprise. "The bleeding has stopped, and the swelling is lessened. But it is deep indeed. I will clean it thoroughly and apply medicine meant for men. It is the only thing we have, but it should work." Together, they worked in perfect calm use studying the great beast, the physician cleaning and dressing the wound. The tiger remained perfectly still, trusting them completely. Outside the main hall, the remaining guests said their hurried goodbyes, bowing quickly and practically rushing toward their carriages. They wanted nothing more than to put distance between themselves and a house that hosted tigers as guests. By the next morning, the story had spread through the city like wildfire. Where once people spoke of the strange girl who could lift boulders, now they whispered in awe of the girl who walked down the mountain carrying a fully grown tiger on her back, as easily as if it were a sack of grain.